Hello again, this is Todd here from Playground World in beautiful Avon, Ohio. Playground World again covers the northern half of Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and southeast Michigan. So if you're in the area, you can always check us out at playgroundworld.com. I'm also going to put my personal work email down below, and you can contact me directly if you'd like for questions. I posted a video a year or so ago on a disassembly and reassembly of the O92 8x13 oval. I got a lot of positive comments, but a few people saying there's no way I could do it that fast, or hey. So a couple things. Number one, I'm a DIYer. I love to try to do stuff myself, but we also here at Playground World pride ourselves on our professionalism and the fact that we do three things. We do play sets, we do basketball hoops, and we do spring-free trampolines, and we do them great every day. I personally, again, have done hundreds, literally hundreds of spring-free trampolines, either assembling them, taking down, moving, and putting them back together. So when I do it, again, keep in mind that I've had so many repetitions, I have a tendency to make that look pretty easy. I would tell you that for every 10 self-installs that we might sell, I probably get about 5 or 6 of those people calling me for help, particularly on the white mat rods. That's the hardest part of the entire installation. But then again, I have several people that are also successful at it, just taking your time. I'm 63 years old. It's not necessarily all about muscle, but it's about technique. But you also build technique through repetition. So I can understand some of the frustrations if you're watching this and you're just trying to take this on for the first time. Some of the comments I've gotten in some of the videos, again, are what happens if the blue dots and the green dots in the frame are gone? And you can always go to Springfree website and find the manuals. The current models, the key is when the frame is in the traditional upright position, the blue dots are always at the left end of every single piece of frame. So it's on the last rod, and that's going to correlate to the blue tabs on the mat, so to create that orientation. The green dots are always on the straight pieces at the very right part, last part of the frame. A lot of times you'll see that they maybe even faded. The blue dot kind of looks like green when they're side by side. So, you know, the blue dot is actually the one on the right, on the very left end of that corner piece or straight piece. So again, hopefully that helps. It's not always the same on the older models. You used to do center posts, and then again, I don't know all those by memory of how many rod positions you get to the center post position. The mat rod clamp. Occasionally I get people like two things. What happens if you need to replace the mat rod clamp? And also what happens if it slides, and I'll show you that during the install process. Sometimes on older models, when you're taking them down and trying to get the net pull out of the sleeve, that sleeve does shrink over time in the heat, and yeah, it can be a bear. I've tried just squirting water up in there. I've tried silicone spray. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes literally I would just manipulate and try to soften up that material to get that ball through that little sleeve part that gets hung up on. I've even had people successfully tell me that they maybe put a little blow dryer and kind of heat it up again just to soften up that material to get that out, but that can be a big challenge. Again, I'll show you through the install, and one other thing, just talking about the center posts on the legs. And one last thing, because I've experienced this a couple of times with people calling me, when you're disassembling a spring-free trampoline, the last thing you want to do, the most dangerous thing you want to do, is take the legs off first, because all that is under tension. It can be very, very dangerous. And even when you take the legs off first, everything's a real big mess. I've had to undo some of those again. So anyway, so next steps. So again, thanks for watching. I have my personal emails. If you're out of our market, you want to ask a question, feel free to email me directly. I don't necessarily check the YouTube comment section on a daily basis, so I don't see that. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to put an O92, just happened to be, I have to put one of these together today here in our showroom. And I'm also going to slow everything down, and I am going to move the camera around. I'm doing this by myself, and try to give you a outside as I'm putting the mat rods in, etc., and also go underneath the trampoline and give you from that underside view so you can see little things, and I'll kind of talk you through this again. So thanks for checking in. Thanks for the comments on the previous video, and here we go. Again, I'll pause, edit, and bring bring everything and talk you through it. All right, great, thanks. All right, so part one, I'm gonna grab the tripod here, is the unboxing. As you see, probably takes 10 minutes to get everything out of the box, get all the cardboard away. I can get everything back in here to toss it. I always use the top of the square box, which is where the mat and the legs are, and I put that in the center, as you can see, and I do build the frame upside down. I'll explain why. It's much easier on as far as the work effort, and for me doing it alone, it's even faster. I take all the bolts they give you and I put them in the center of the box, so as you see, as I work my way around, I can grab a handful and keep coming back and forth. I don't lose them in the grass, and I'm only 2 steps away. Yeah, part two is the legs. So you're gonna see on all the legs, there is a dot. On the squares, they all look the same, they're yellow. On the ovals, the end legs, you'll see a little bit more offset, or actually orange. But the key is here, the dot always faces outside. So there is a little offset on that center post, where the center post is gonna go over this little thing right in front of my chin where the yellow dot is. That always faces to the outside. And if you do that, all your legs will be just fine and dandy. So I lay everything out so I'm not really having to keep running back and forth to boxes. Not critical unless you're doing this professionally and you're trying to do 4 or 5 in one day. So first step is I'm going to hand tighten all the large bolts, which are the frame bolts. The nut is always to the inside. That way, if anybody were to brush past the frame, they're not going to hang themselves up in the threads or the nuts, and it's just a cleaner look that way. All right. So my head might not always be in the frame here, but at least you can see the work I'm doing. All right. So we grab the leg bolts first, and again on the ovals, because I can flip this by myself. I build it all in one piece. On the 11 by 11 and 13 by 13, if I'm doing it solo, which often is the case, I actually build it in 2 pieces, then flip it, bring them together, and then join the last 2 sections together. It's basically, you bring one leg on both sides and marry it together. And that's way easier for me, and I'll explain why. But here we go on the bolting the frame together. Again, you're just gonna finger tighten these for now. Sometimes you gotta give it a little wiggle to get everything through. So just a finger tighten, which is fine. All right, so that, oopsie, lost my shoe. That's the frame. So smaller bolts, leg bolts, again, just finger tightening. And again, reminder, as you slide the center post over, that little yellow dot faces outside. And they're always gonna cross over. The center post is basically always gonna be right on section where the frame junction is. And it's another reason why you never want to take the legs off when it's under load on the springs, because it'll fold up like a upside down umbrella. Again, one of the reasons I do this upside down is the traditional method is picking the frame up, resting on your legs, then bringing the legs up. One is I got to pick the frame up like 6 times. 2 is when you drop the frame down on the legs, when you're doing it that way, it kind of, the gravity will push the frame down past a little hole. So I'm also kind of like wrestling, trying to get the hole on the leg to line up with the hole in the frame, where this way I don't have to do that. So I can also use my body weight as a persuasion occasionally to kind of like put pressure down on the leg if I need to. I'll build it upright in certain situations. Sometimes if I don't have the space to flip it, or perhaps the yard is kind of muddy, I don't want everything getting all mucked up. Traditionally, generally nice grassy yard does just fine. So again, nuts to the inside, finger tighten. Last one, best one. All right, so quick pause just because it makes it easier to edit this. Okay, flipping the frame. This might feel a little scary with 2 people. It's easy, easy, easy. It may sound a little aggressive when you hear it clink, but again, it works really easy and well and makes life, for one person doing this, a lot easier for me. Again, here we go. All right, so everything's upright. Now we gotta tighten down the bolts. Springfree does give you a handy dandy little wrench in the kit, plus the Allen wrench for speed and less work. Little baby impact hammer. The key is do not over tighten. Short little burst. 3/4 or 1/2 inch, or I believe it's 19 and 13 millimeters. Here we go. All right, changing over to the 1/2 inch drive and doing the legs. Again, short burst, don't over tighten. They're nylon nuts, so. That's your frame all tightened down. Quick pause. Okay, putting the net on next and threading all the rods in. Number one, look for this green tab on the net. Again, it faces towards the outside. When you're putting your net on initially, it's going to be upside down and inverted. But this green tab, the first little hole right there, is where the first rod's going to go next to the green hole. And that is going to be the side that your opening is on. So you choose what side your opening is on. Green dot, green tab, and then you can start threading them through. Let me, I know I'm chopping my head off, but I want you to see what I'm doing better than my head, right? Okay, so throw the net to the center, green tab in my hand. Just kind of spread it out. Bring that over. All right, so again, green tab, first rod, goes through the hole, goes with the green dot, and now your net is going to be oriented to the frame. I like to walk it right to left or counterclockwise. That will pull the net snug to the base of the rod. So just walk around. All right. Just always be careful not to snag the net anything. You might also notice that I've also started spreading rods out. Usually I can break the two boxes down into like quarters. That way as I'm walking around, I run out of rods, I'm ready to go. And I like to feed the rods going clockwise because they lean that way. Again, some of the technique I've learned when I'm going fast, I can literally put these, pinch them between my legs, I walk backwards. Originally I was just always doing one at a time, but I kind of developed a skill where I can hold like 5 in a hand, manipulate them with my hand. But again, anyway, you're just trying to save time and keep everything clean. Here we go. So I use my left hand and I run that along the top of the net, always feeling for the next hole. And just feed them as I go. We'll get a better shot here in a second. So as I go, it's working. The key here is do not miss a hole. Otherwise, when you get done, you're going to have an extra rod in your hand. And you go like, what the heck's with that? I've never, in my 9 years, ever had a miscount in the package where they gave me an extra rod or missed one. So again, just feeling here for the hole. And I just keep working my way around. You can do them one at a time. Whatever, you can have a friend go one way and you go the other and you can meet in the middle. That's okay too. Just concentrate on not missing any holes. Feed them away. Pick up more rods. Boom. Again, when I first started, I could only do like, I would pull one like this, pull another one. Again, it's all okay. But if you're going to do this kind of professionally, semi-professionally, again, it takes a little while to manipulate this in your hand. It's kind of like shuffling a deck of cards. It takes a while to do a bridge. It definitely helps your speed. Again, left hand is following the top of the net, which is actually the bottom of the net. Finding that next hole, queuing it up as I go along. All right, cool. No extra rods, no missed holes. So we're all set up for that. The next thing is where we make all the magic happen. It's where most people struggle, is putting the mat on. Quick pause, and we'll come back to that. All right, so I got my mat. Just gonna kind of unfold it. Again, it's an oval, so you know the basic orientation. You throw it out, shake it out, kind of know that you have the rounded corner. So again, blue tabs go to the blue dot frame, and that blue dot in the framing, the orientation is always the last rod on any piece of the frame. So the leftmost dot is that rod. And actually, if you look close, there's actually a little bit of an extra offset on that weld. I can tell you the first two are pretty easy. The third one is generally the hardest. And this is where I'm going to stop and maybe do some close-ups. So you're not under any load. Also, you're always going to notice me peeking here, and actually as I go, you'll notice every time I will roll that up. I'm actually taking a look right here, because if this little tab is inside, it can slide through, and when you put the rod in there, it can push the rod in there, and it's really a pain in the butt. You literally have to maybe go backwards and unload to get that rod back out. So always check to make sure that little tab is overlapped. I'll get a close-up of that. So blue tab, blue dot, and again, the key to the rods, everybody, elbow on your side, palm up. Go as high up on that rod as you can. That's going to give you the greatest amount of leverage. Now these first few are going to be hard. You're going to have to push them a little bit further, but once you get the blue dots in, you literally only have to push it in like 3 inches. And what I see a lot of people is they're really trying to muscle it way past it, or they're way far down on the rod. They're not using their leverage, and they're like that, right? So higher up in the rod, palm up, use your body weight. And you're just kind of rock it, right? And I will roll that up with my thumb and my index finger to give a little bit more space. You just need to go past that, almost to that inside gray tab, and you can feel the ball. And then as you release it, it locks in the ball. Make sure you hear the lock. Make sure you know you're there before you totally let up pressure, or this rod's coming back at you. Keep your face away from that. Absolutely. Keep your genitalia away from that as well, all right? So don't want anybody getting hurt. So for me, usually the third one is when you're actually starting to feel a little load. Again, there's an example where I gotta make sure that tab's in there. This is probably the hardest one. Now you're in, and I'm just walking. I kind of push up, make sure I find the blue tab, blue rod, make sure the clamp is seated correctly, and I'm good to go. All right, so I'm going to move the camera around here for a second so you get maybe this side. I'll show you from the outside kind of what I'm doing, and then I'll pause it, put it on the inside, and hopefully that helps you. All right, so we're going to try to give you a close-up of a few of these. And again, normally once I'm here, I kind of skip to, do to, but just so you can see the example. Again, here's a clamp. I want to make sure, so I actually will have this pinch. Here's where I'm grabbing that rod. Again, I roll up the one to make sure that that tab is there, because otherwise it's gonna push in there. Palm up, and I get as high on the rod as I can. All right, I kind of roll it up, and I use my hip and my body weight. I push here, and I just lock it in. Make sure you feel that click. Go to the next one. Roll it up, little pressure. Lock it in. 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 All right. I'm going to pause. I'm actually going to put the camera inside so you can see. Okay, I'm just doing my best on this. I'm laying underneath the trampoline, but let's see if I can do a few more. Let's keep coming. So I roll it up, walk it, roll it up, walk it, roll it up, walk it, walk it, check, bigger, something like that. Keep going. Trampoline has a tendency to slide around on this rubber indoor floor. All right, you see how this works. So I picked out this rod. So again, 1, 2. So you can see I pinch where my thumb is, Again, palm up here and just rock your body, get in there and relax. And if I undo it, I actually use my finger, I can push in, pop it out. All right, so again, pinch, so I'm gonna roll that up so I always see it. That actually helps open up the ball or the socket. Palm up, rock it in, click. So one of the challenges indoors, this rubber floor is kind of slippery. And actually when you have a partner, we like to work opposite of each other. So we're pushing against each other. Otherwise, it could slide away from you. You feel like you're pulling back. At the same time, you're pushing in. But see, I'm not going very far. It's kind of cool when you can actually step on the leg at the same time. All right, last part is, now we're gonna carefully bring the net up. And again, making sure you don't get anything hung up. You don't wanna, especially the net pole holders, sometimes you get the net. Just be careful, you don't wanna snag the net, rip a hole in your brand new net. Again, I just be very careful, walk it around. Once I get it up, I like to kind of snug it, so I'll walk around. Now we want to bring the net up closer to the mat. So just going to walk around. Because they're slanted this way, going clockwise will help do that. All right, cool. All right, net pole. One of the easiest things we do. There's no rhyme or reason, they're all the same. And again there, well actually, I did forget one thing. Pause. On the 8x13 oval and the 13x13 jumbo square, you'll get these long poles. They go above the long frame section. It's a little bit longer run between poles. So they're just designed so the net doesn't sag in that position. And those are the only positions you cannot install your hoop. You can go anywhere else on those. I find a tool that occasionally I would use a slotted screwdriver. And that's just because you look for the yellow tab. There is a little hole. Feed that through there. Go all the way. So occasionally, that doesn't always seat itself like it just did. It's hard to get in. You can use your screwdriver as a lever arm, just put it kind of in the hole and roll it forward, and that helps it drop in. It doesn't happen all the time. That's a little pro tip, I guess. Pro tip. So I like to put these in first. And again, you need to, a little lever arm. Carefully, pop in the hole, roll it, you're all good. So other than your impact hammer the tools that come in the box, the Allen wrench, a box cutter. So yeah, when you're unboxing, you can use a box cutter. Just be really careful. You don't want to touch your net or your mat, or even when these poles are in a sleeve. I've had people run their box cutter in the packaging and just literally open up one of the sleeves. That's not a good thing either, so be careful. So these just slide right in. You're going to feel a little pop at the top. There's a little rain right here in that ball, and you'll feel a little clunk and you know you're home. Almost done. Last one, best one. All right, favorite part coming up. All right, raising the neck. I, for some reason, like to start the first pole left of the zipper and find the net first pole, because back in my early days, pro tip, because where the net, I didn't ride the net all the way up and staying here, and the first pole I put in was over, and all my poles are like at a 30-degree angle. So it's another reason why making sure you use the green dot to the green, that way the net is oriented. So just slide the sleeve down, stand at the side. I like to do like this. You're gonna have to create a bow, drop it in the hole, and give a little push down. And a lot of times you're gonna feel a little clump, not always. All right. Walk, walk, walk. Here's that. You feel it? You hear it? Again, standing to the side, in case you miss, there's a little tension on that pole. Last one, this one. Boom. All right. A couple little things, easy pro tip. The zipper. Try not to take the zippers to the very end. I like to just leave the bottom horizontal zipper about halfway, because little kids like to try to force their way in. It does put a lot of pressure on the zipper. So the rule should be about halfway, but always pull this zipper down before you start bouncing and everybody stays inside. You're gonna find your serial numbers. The net is right here. Usually starts with G4 in the new ones. Under this tab is the mat, and then somewhere on the frame, usually on a corner piece in gold paint, will be the frame. So you'll have mat, net, frame. Make sure to always register your warranty at springfree.com. Gives you a 10-year warranty on the entire trampoline. Last thing, the clamp. Someone asked me about the clamp. So occasionally these can break and crack. And to get a new one in, my best tip is you basically have to take, you probably want to take the net down, invert it for the first timer. You probably want to take the rods 2 or 3 right or left of that one. That'll create a little less tension on the mat. Then you're gonna slide this, you're gonna roll it up and slide it with that tongue thing, but get it underneath the material. You almost push it all the way past. That way this clears the other side and then you can bring it back. There's a couple other YouTube videos on that, but again, occasionally these break. I have millions of them, or hundreds of them at least, laying around. Sometimes when someone had to replace the mat, I harvest all the old ones. So again, this is Todd from Playground World. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. Again, if you're in our market in Northern Ohio, just reach out to us. Again, my email is below if you have a question. I don't check my YouTube messaging as often as I do my email. And again, have a great day, be safe, happy bouncing, and see you at a store very soon. Great day. Hello, this is Todd here again with Playground World, a Springfree dealer here from Central Ohio, so basically from Columbus to Cleveland, Toledo to Pittsburgh. We have 8 locations. We are your Springfree professionals. If you're in our market, just give us a call or check us out at playgroundworld.com. We can help you out with Springfree. I've installed over 600 of these, so yes, I can make things look remarkably easy, and I've had some comments. So today I'm going to disassemble an O92, which is an 8x13 large oval. Try to give you some extra tips and pointers. I'm a DIYer yourself, so if you're not in our market, give it a shot. It's probably why you're watching it. If you're in your market and you have trouble, please reach out to us. I can walk you through it, or call us and let the pros do it and make life really, really easy for you. You know, when people are taking these apart, obviously the jump rods are the hardest part. So I'm going to try to manipulate the camera. I'll put some angles from underneath to show you how I do that. But really this is more about technique than it is about muscle. I'm 63 years old. I mean, I'm in okay shape, but you know, it doesn't take a strong man to do this. So also, I'm going to be prepping this for us, removing it. So as I break the frame down, I'm actually going to just keep it in 2 pieces to make it easy for us to move it, but not necessarily take it all the way down the frame, but I'll show you how to do that as well. The tools you'll need, number 1 is the Allen wrench issued by Springfree. If not, any of your combination Allen wrenches will have one that will fit. This is universal. Any of the ones that have been manufactured about the last 3 years, it's the same Allen wrench for both the large and the small bolts. If it's older than that, there's 2 different sizes for that, and they give you this handy dandy little wrench. And I actually prefer to use a impact hammer. You'll need a 3/4 inch and a 1/2 inch drive to take the bolts out. It makes life way easier and way faster when you're doing a lot of these. So part 1 here is going to be taking down the net and taking the net poles down. You're going to see these white C-clamps. And for the beginners, the novice, you want to take all the C-clamps out. What you're going to see up close, there's a little tongue on that fits in that little slot. And at the end of the net pole, there's a little ring. So the idea is when it's installed properly, that little tongue locks into that little ring, and that stops the net pole from jumping out. Also, I'm going to pause this occasionally, just it makes it easier for editing. So I'm going to pause, come right back. You won't even feel it, and I'm going to take down all the net poles. All right, and so for a person like me who's done a bazillion of these, I've got to the point where I don't need to take the C-clamps out. I can really rock it out. But again, always keep in mind that it is under load. There's a tension, so always stand to the side, give it a little tug. Be prepared for that to kind of recoil out. All right. All right, and so in the 8x13 as well as the 13x13, there's a fiberglass rod inserted in the long run. Actually, for the move, you don't necessarily have to take it out. All right, so the next part is to take the net poles out of the sleeves. On the really old tramps, they've been out for 5 or 6 years sitting in the sun, Yeah, this could be a bear. These sleeves have a tendency to shrink up a little bit. You have to get that ball out of the sleeve. You know, occasionally if I'm carrying a water, I'll squirt water up there. I may shoot a little silicone up there to kind of lube it up a little bit, but sometimes it can be a little challenging. A little tug and rotate, usually all it takes. That's the net pulls. And again, I'm probably making this a little easier. If you've tried this yourself, you're like, holy crap. So again, I'm not trying to demean anybody. It's just, again, when someone does it as many times as I have, you get a feel for it, a little art along with the science. All right, so next you're gonna invert the net. So basically it's gonna walk along, invert the net down, act like a skirt. All right, I like to push this back a little bit. All right, so when I take the net, the bounce rods out, the mat rods out, I like to go clockwise. And I know in the manual probably says just like install where you do all the blue tabs and they come back. That's true when you're installing it. When you're installing, you definitely got to do equal pressure where you do all the blue tabs first. Then I kind of do 2, skip 2, and then finish it off my third loop. If you watch some of my other videos, that's how I attack it. That way you keep even pressure. I don't think that's true when you're disassembling it. You can actually just pick a spot and start going. It's actually just going to get easier as you go because you're relieving more tension. The reason I go right to left is after I clear the first rod, the next one, I don't have a rod in my way to bash off my knuckles. So after I do 1 or 2 of them, I have all this open space. Versus if I go left or right every single time, I have that other rod into place. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna put the camera inside so you kind of have an idea of seeing what my hands are doing from the inside. And then I'll show you a shot of me doing 4 or 5 rods from the outside. But again, the key here is always elbow on your side, palm up, web space in the rod. And again, using leverage. What I see when other people do on YouTube and other people trying to do it is they're all the way down in the middle of the rod. The higher up on the rod you get, the more leverage you use. You really just rock your body weight. The other thing I see a big mistake for most people doing is they really try to push way far into it. They need to go way farther than you need to go. They're working way harder. You just need to go far enough to clear that ball out of the socket, all right? So I'm going to pause. Maybe I'll do a camera shot on the outside first, and then I'll move it on the inside. All right, so I'll show you a few pics from the underside, but basically I have my index finger on the open side of that ball and socket joint, and I have my thumb on top. And again, just elbow on the side, rock it forward, and I just clear. And I actually probably even roll this up a little bit to help clear it, so I'm not having to go so far. Everybody really fights it. They try to go 5 inches past that ball, right? So I feel for it. Rock forward, boom. Rock forward, boom. Rock forward, boom. Rock forward, boom. All right? All right, so I'm gonna put the camera underneath the trampoline and have some views coming back this way. All right, so hopefully this will help again. First time I've done this, but again, you can see where my finger is. I pinch and just push past it. Just barely go past it. Everybody I see works way too hard. More of an art than a science here. Boom, see? All right. All right, got a crazy view. I might chirp my head off, but I'm gonna keep going.
Okay, so I wasn't timing that, but I gotta guess that was about 60 seconds to take all those out. That's the professional. Try it if you like. Call us if you need us. So I'll pull the rod. I'll show you the rest of taking the rods out, taking the net down, and breaking down the frame. Pretty easy, just walking them out. I try to, again, I usually use a 5-gallon bucket or something, and I'll just, when I'm going for speed, I'll do like 8 or 10 rods. You'll kind of watch, get the gist. All right, that's the rods. Just be careful with the net that you don't get it snagged on something. The last thing you want to do is rip a hole in your net or you're taking it apart. Everything to the inside. All right, so got my handy dandy wrench, and just for everybody here, we're gonna take it all apart. All right, so taking the bolts out, I'm gonna do the whole thing, I decided. So all the nuts should be on the inside, they did it right. So you got your handy candy hex key on the outside. I'm starting with the big bolts that put the frame together. That's a 3/4 inch or 19 millimeters. I like to use a little apron to collect my bolts. Now sometimes on models that have been out there a little while, that might be a little stubborn. You might have to go to a socket or something that gives you a little bit more leverage to get started. All right, we're gonna do the legs, and everything should just kind of fall apart. After that. Almost done. Sometimes I'm tapping that on the frame just to get the nut to release. All right. you go. A completely disassembled O92 8x13 Springfree Trampoline. PGWorld.com. If we can help, have a great day.